week on Business Brief, what new visa fees could mean for research in Missouri. Plus, the state's soybean industry is under strain amid a Chinese boycott. Welcome to Business Brief, Missouri Business Alert's podcast focused on the business news and issues shaping the state. My name is Riley Hindle, and I am joined by my co-host, Noah Grabianski. Noah, how are you this week?
I am good. I'm pretty busy. Friday the 17th, the day that this is getting released, is National Pasta Day. So I am currently concocting some kind of like a baked mac dish thing.
Ooh, that sounds good. I think, personally, pasta is hands down one of the best foods ever created, in my humble opinion. I will admit I'm a tiny bit spoiled because I went to Italy this summer, and so I got like the good stuff. But I do still love the Italian restaurants around town.
They're good. I'm really jealous that you got to go to Italy because the closest I ever get to Italian pasta is like whatever they sell at Aldi.
I mean, it's okay. But speaking of Aldi, why don't you kick off all these headlines we've got going? Oh, that was terrible. Never doing that again.
A federal judge has blocked President Donald Trump's plan to lay off over 4,000 federal employees while the government shutdown continues. The judge ruled that the Trump administration's actions were politically motivated. For furloughed federal workers in Missouri, uncertainty still continues. Missed paychecks and threats to withhold back pay are causing frustration among Kansas City's over 30,000 federal employees.
Federal Reserve Bank Chair Jerome Powell said that sharp hiring slowdowns likely mean the Fed will cut interest rates twice more this year. The job market added only 22,000 jobs in August, causing the central bank to signal shifting priorities towards jobs over keeping prices stable. Despite a lack of federal economic data during the government shutdown, Powell said job and inflation outlooks appear to have not changed much since the Fed's September meeting.
Efforts to push Missouri's new redistricting map to a referendum face a lawsuit filed by Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. The suit argues that redistricting cannot be subject to referendums despite prior precedent allowing for it. The move came the same day Missouri Secretary of State Denny Hoskins approved a referendum petition submitted by opponents of the redistricting effort, but said that roughly 100,000 signatures already collected by the group wouldn't count.
The strike against Boeing by thousands of union machinists in the St. Louis area is stretching into its 11th week. Air Force General Kenneth Wilsbach gave written testimony saying the strike has delayed deliveries of the F-15EX fighter jet. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union has since filed a complaint alleging Boeing's refusal to bargain in good faith with the National Labor Relations Board.
Amazon has announced plans to open 4 new facilities in Missouri by the end of this year. The e-commerce company plans to add locations in Brookfield, Maryville, Scott City, and Sedalia. The company said the new delivery stations will help speed up the delivery process. The facilities are expected to create over 150 jobs.
A proposal to establish the first charter school in Columbia has been approved. The Youth Build Workforce Charter School, run by JobPoint, will focus on the group's mission of providing career planning and vocational training. The application process typically takes about 6 to 18 months, meaning the school likely won't open until fall of 2027. It would be the first charter school in Missouri to operate outside of Kansas City or St. Louis.
Our first story this week looks at how the new $100,000 fee for H-1B visas could affect highly skilled international workers looking for work in the U.S.
Wait, did you say $100,000?
Yes, I did. And employers who might be required to pay this fee are feeling that shock too. Universities often have at least a couple positions covered by this visa, so they are just one type of institution that might feel the strain if this fee were to stick.
So it sounds like there's a possibility that this fee won't be around forever.
Well, the fee is now facing a lawsuit, and legal scholars say that has merit. Missouri Business Alert's Bella Zielinski has been reporting on the visa situation to get a sense of where it might be headed. Here's that story.
The White House announced last month that it would soon be more expensive for employers to sponsor highly skilled international employees, $100,000 more expensive. The H-1B visas targeted in this executive order are used by foreign workers to secure highly technical positions in the U.S. Any applications filed after September 21st will be subject to this hiked fee. One of the most common uses of the visas is in higher education. Universities often attract top international academics with the prospect of sponsoring a visa. Many institutions have at least a few members of the staff on an H-1B, which is one of a couple visa options for academics. A top research university can have H-1B counts in the hundreds. While the University of Missouri system does not publish official numbers of faculty currently on H-1B visas, publicly available data show the system filed nearly 200 H-1B applications in the first 3 quarters of 2025. Sociologist and higher education researcher Stephen Brint says that most universities, especially public institutions, will not have the funds to support hiring new faculty requiring sponsorship.
Overall, in the United States, there are 25 or so very wealthy private universities that have the resources that could be expended on this more easily than most public universities.
The opportunity to conduct research under some of the most renowned establishments in the world attracts scholars from all over looking to pursue long-term projects. Sheldon Evans, who teaches immigration law at Washington University in St. Louis, says that a decrease in the capacity to support these scholars will directly affect the quality of research coming out of American universities.
The latest developments in AI, the latest developments in medicine are going to be impacted because a lot of this foreign talent is going to go elsewhere.
Last month's White House memo has also created some confusion for immigration lawyers and international employment advocacy groups who are advising individuals looking to obtain an H-1B in the future. The Trump administration has yet to release clarification on exactly who the fees apply to. Dami Adunuwu, founder of the international job matching platform Purpose Connect in Springfield, says this makes it difficult to give concrete advice to students wishing to transition their current visa into another.
If there is a change of status from a F1 visa to a H-1B, does the fee apply?
Adunuwu stresses the need for patience from individuals and companies seeking this advice for how to best proceed under the new regulations. As of Wednesday, the White House has released no further guidance for the cases that may or may not be considered for the fee. While some wait for these clarifications, others are working to strike down the new fee altogether. In early October, organizations including an auto workers group, a professors group, and a nurse staffing company filed a lawsuit to block the further implementation of the $100,000 fee. Legal scholars have identified one of the 4 arguments outlined in the suit as having the greatest likelihood of gaining headway. The Administrative Procedures Act dictates how a federal agency may create rules. A crucial part of this is that the decision to create a new rule, like to change the visa fee, may not be arbitrary and capricious. A rule cannot be created at random with no explanation or evidence given for its adoption. Richard Middleton teaches immigration law at the University of Missouri and St. Louis University Schools of Law, and says this argument has the best chance of success.
You need to explain why all of a sudden H-1B visas are going from X cost to $100,000 to adjudicate. They may have a logical reason for doing so, but they haven't explained it. You can't just pick a number out the thin air and say, we're going to charge this for that.
At the heart of every lawsuit and language clarification, it is ordinary people who are subject to these changing regulations. People like Evan's students.
They are really scared, and they came to this country for those opportunities, and now all of those plans have been completely upended because of the uncertainty with this new fee.
For our next story, we'll look at how U.S. tariffs are affecting Missouri's agriculture market, specifically the soybean industry. Missouri Business Alert reporter Patrick Katzis is here to give us the details. Patrick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of the soybean market to Missouri's economy?
Absolutely. Soybeans are a major export and a big source of income for Missouri farmers. In fact, soybeans are Missouri's most valuable agricultural product. They accounted for nearly $2.9 billion worth of production last year, which ranked 6th nationally. But recent U.S. tariffs have disrupted trade flows and put real pressure on Missouri's soybean industry.
So what tariffs have affected Missouri's soybean industry the most?
By far, the tariffs placed on China have hurt the soybean producers the most. In 2024, U.S. farmers exported about $12.5 billion worth of soybeans to China, which accounts for about half of total soybeans exported from the U.S. in total. But with the recently imposed tariffs, China has completely stopped importing soybeans from the U.S., which is causing uncertainty in places with valuable soybean industries, such as Missouri. Pat Westhoff, the director of the Food and Agricultural Policy Research Institute at the University of Missouri, told me that the soybean market has taken a substantial hit since the tariffs were imposed.
So with this disruption of the export market, what do current soybean prices look like?
The price received for soybeans was about $10 per bushel in August, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That's pretty consistent with where prices have been for the past year, but it's down about one-fourth from more than $13 per bushel in late 2023. Bryant Kagi, owner of Kagi Farms in Maysville, says that's cutting into his farm's margins.
It's a pretty significant reduction. Is a lot less.
And how are farmers adjusting to these lower prices?
The short answer is they're not. A big factor with these tariffs have been how unpredictable the current administration has been in issuing them. The U.S. has announced alterations to its tariffs on China on several different occasions since February. Westhoff says that has made it difficult for farmers to plan for the future.
Farmers are trying to decide which crop to plant next spring, which investments to make. It's really hard to know for sure what to do. So as we go forward, producers have to make choices about what they're going to do in 2026 and beyond. That's hard to do when the environment's as uncertain as it is today.
And if these tariffs were to persist, what does the future look like for Missouri's soybean industry?
It's really all up in the air right now. In November, many of these tariffs are facing court cases to determine if they are legal and valid. There's also talks in the government of possible aid packages that could support farmers, but nothing is certain. If these tariffs are to stay in place and farmers receive no additional funding, Westhoff says there could be serious changes in the near future.
If there's not any additional assistance provided and we continue to have the sorts of disruptions we've had, I'd expect fewer people to plant soybeans in 2026 with increased acreage and corn and some other crops instead.
So at this point, only time will tell what Missouri's soybean market will look like, whether that's policy changes, court rulings, or possible aid. The decisions made over the next few months could shape the state's agricultural landscape for years to come.
Clearly, there's some big implications for Missouri's farmers coming up. Patrick, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. And for the folks listening to read Patrick's story on the current state of Missouri's soybean market, go to MissouriBusinessAlert.com. And it's now time for us to get into our words of the week. Noah, what's your word this week?
My word this week is Barry Jane.
Huh. Okay, all I can think of is Mary Jane from Spider-Man, but I don't think that's related to what you're talking about.
Well, you're on the right track with Mary Jane, but you're thinking of the wrong one. Kansas City's Boulevard Brewing Company, which produces the Quirk Seltzer that you might have heard of, is jumping into the cannabis beverage market with a new raspberry-flavored THC seltzer called Barry Jane.
Oh, okay. Mary Jane, I get it now. So what else do we know about this new drink?
Well, Barry Jane does not have alcohol. For the intoxicating effects, it uses a substance called Delta-9 THC, which is derived from industrial hemp and was legalized nationally in 2018. Boulevard is one of the largest companies to release a THC drink in the U.S.
Huh. It's interesting to see a beer company embrace a new cannabis beverage option.
It is, but that's all I've got for this week. What's your word this week, Riley?
My word is the dub.
Sounds like the grand prize of all grand prizes.
Well, it is dedicated to celebrating wins. The Dub is a Kansas City sports bar focused on women's sports, and it debuted Thursday.
I've heard of this concept before. Is it the first one in Missouri?
It is. So the owner said it took over a year to renovate and set up the location. Before the Dub opened, it held pop-up events at professional women's sporting events. It's part of a larger national trend, too. The Sports Bra, which you've probably also heard of, is a chain of women's sports bars based in Portland, Oregon, and they're also planning on opening a new location in the St. Louis area in 2026.
Well, that's great timing for the Dub, and I imagine it'll be a popular spot with the Kansas City Current headed to the National Women's Soccer League playoffs next month.
Yeah, it probably will be if I had to guess. I'm sure other women's sports fans will be looking forward to some consistent coverage, too.
Absolutely.
For a closing thought today, here's St. Louis University professor Richard Middleton again, speaking about the value of transparency and feedback at all levels of American government.
That's just an element of democracy in the United States, of governance, that we give people notice and we allow them the opportunity to comment. You may have seen it on TV when people show up to City Hall to fuss about something at the City Council meeting or the Board of Aldermen meeting. People have the ability to comment and be engaged and participate in governance in the United States.
Well, that's all for this week. The M33 Project provided the music for this episode. For my co-host Noah Grabianski and editors Trevor Grandin, Kayla Grimshaw, Kelly DeRook, and Michael Stacy, I'm Riley Hindle, and this has been Business Brief. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.